Hey everyone, Theo here. Today I'm reviewing the Samsung Galaxy Tab S10 Lite from the artist's perspective. And these are some sketches that I've drawn with this tablet while commuting on the train on my way to work. So these sketches were all drawn on location, and I like to use my tablet as a digital sketch pad. So when I'm on the train, I will just pull out the tablet and start sketching, and the workflow is really smooth with this tablet. Oh, disclaimer, this is actually a review unit on loan from Samsung Singapore. So in this video, I'll just present to you my findings so that you can decide whether this tablet is worth the money in case you are thinking of getting a tablet for drawing purposes. Shown on the screen right now is the pricing information for this tablet and the different configurations. And this tablet that I have here is Wi-Fi only, but you can get this tablet with 5G cellular support as well in certain countries. Here in Singapore, you can buy the tablet from Shopee Singapore or Lazada Singapore apps, or go to the Samsung store to find the tablets. And if you buy online, you may be able to get this free smart book cover, which I do not have with me for this review. Alright, as usual, let me give you the bottom line up front. This tablet looks good, sounds good, and it's quite well made. The build quality is solid. The performance is alright with the Exynos 1380 processor. There is the occasional stutter, but it's not really a big issue or a deal breaker. One of the main downsides or limitations with this tablet is actually the display quality. So there is very obvious LCD glow even during daytime, and I can see some shadowing effect at the edges, and this is very reflective, but you can buy a matte screen protector or an anti-reflective screen protector to apply on this. Face unlock doesn't work that consistently for me, unfortunately, and there is no fingerprint unlock. There is auto brightness, but I find that the auto brightness usually has lower brightness than what I would prefer. Or maybe it's because I have used other tablets with higher auto brightness, so I have something to compare with. But the brightness looks okay to me, and if you don't like how the auto brightness works, you can always use manual brightness. And this display does look bright enough with brightness up to 600 nits. Color quality is actually okay, so it's just the LCD glow that bothers me. And also the viewing angle of this display is kind of limited. So when you tilt the tablet this way, can you see the change with the brightness? Or there is some sort of gradation going on. Yeah, that's due to the limited viewing angle. The included Samsung S Pen uses Wacom EMR pen tag, so this supports pressure, tilt, and palm rejection. And this pen is not powered by battery, so no charging is required. And this side button is usually customizable. For some reason, with this review unit and this pen, there is a tendency for the pen to draw thicker lines when I'm trying to draw thin lines. So let me switch to another Samsung S Pen. And this one has a plastic nib. And can you see how thin the line is when drawing with minimal pressure? And this is with minimal pressure as well, but the line is so much thicker. So if you want to get the best performance out of this pen, you will have to use a drawing app that can let you tweak the pressure curve so that you can draw thin and thick lines more easily. And this 10.9-inch display size is a good size to work with for drawing. There is a lot of space for drawing. You can have palettes on the left, right, and you can place your palm on the display and still get a good amount of space left over for drawing. So this is almost A5 size. Actually, this is larger than A5 size. Here's another sketch that I drew a few days ago, and with this app Concepts, I was able to get thin and thick lines quite easily, so no issues with drawing here, and the drawing workflow is really smooth. The latency here with this app is actually quite good, but latency performance will vary depending on which drawing app you use, and latency is not really an issue with this app. Oh, almost forgot to mention that this tablet has 90 Hz refresh rate, so animation for pan, zoom, and rotate will look quite smooth. Yep, this is quite smooth, very fluid. This tablet runs on Samsung One UI version 7 on top of Android 15, and there is official support for Google Play Store. Samsung One UI has many features and is one of the main selling points for Samsung tablets. Oh, this tablet comes with, the base model of this tablet comes with 6 gigs of RAM, but you can buy the higher end model with 8 gigs of RAM. Now, this is a decent tablet, but the pricing here in Singapore is actually quite close to the Tab S10 FE, which is actually a much better tablet with better display, better performance. It's thinner, lighter, and there is fingerprint unlock, and there is IP68 rating, and there are other things that are better. So if you can stretch your budget slightly, I would highly recommend you go with the Tab S10 FE instead of the Tab S10 Lite. Battery life is pretty good. You can get around 8 hours of battery life with maximum brightness, 10 to 12 or even longer with auto brightness. For the price that Samsung is selling this tablet at, you can actually get tablets with better hardware from other companies. So the main selling points for the Tab S10 Lite is Samsung One UI with the many useful features, and S Pen performance is just more dependable, consistent. This is an accurate and sensitive pen, and this pen is just much better compared to most pens with other tablets from other companies. So those are the main pros and cons, and now let's move on to the full review. Let's take a look at the items included with the purchase. This is how the packaging box looks. These are the items in the box: a USB-C to USB-C charging cable, SIM ejector, 2 pieces of paper to tell you what's in the box, the Samsung S Pen, and the tablet. Let's talk about the design first. Sorry about the noise in the background. I have to keep recording because the construction is going to go on for months. Okay, so this design looks just like the Tab S10 FE and also the Tab S11 that I have reviewed recently. My first impression of this Tab S10 Lite is the display does not look as bright compared to the Tab S10 FE and the Tab S11, and you can clearly see a difference. So for some reason, the auto brightness seems to be lower than what I would prefer. I wish there is some setting that I can tweak to increase the auto brightness. Corners for the body and LCD are rounded off. Power buttons located here, and this is for volume control. The Samsung S Pen can attach magnetically here. The tablet is 6.6mm thick. On this side, we have the pogo pin connectors for the keyboard accessories. And here we have one speaker, and there is another speaker on the other side. The audio quality is good. The audio is loud and clear, and there is decent stereo effect. But the surround does not sound as good compared to the more expensive Samsung tablets with 4 speakers. And this is the micro SD card slot. The model that I have here is Wi-Fi only, but you can get this tablet with 5G cellular support as well. And here we have the USB-C port with USB 2 transfer speed, and the charging speed is up to 25 watt. So to fully charge this tablet will take around 2 hours. Face unlock does not work that consistently for me, so unfortunately I have to type in the pin to unlock this tablet quite often. And there is no under display fingerprint sensor and no fingerprint scanner on the power button. And this is the back with one 8 megapixel camera. There is no flash. This is metal and this is matte textured. Oh, the pen can also be attached magnetically on the back, even though there is no area marked out for the pen. Weight of this tablet is 524 grams, which is considered lightweight for a tablet with a 10.9-inch display, and the overall build quality is quite good as the Tab S11, which is more expensive, but this tablet is thinner. This is just slightly thicker, and also there is no IP rating, so there is no water resistance. Let's talk about this display. So this is a 10.9-inch TFT LCD. The resolution is 2112 by 1320. The display looks sharp. Pixelation is not really noticeable from normal distance away. Refresh rate is 90 Hz, so animation for pan, zoom, and rotate looks and feels smooth. Here's a side-by-side comparison of the TFT LCD versus the OLED display on the Tab S10 11. So the auto brightness here is slightly higher, but the actual brightness that I'm seeing is much brighter compared to the LCD. And not just that, the contrast is also much better. From an angle, the difference is even more noticeable. Another thing I noticed about the LCD is there is some sort of shadowing effect at the edges. Now my camera may not be able to capture it, but I can definitely see it with the white background and also on the home screen. I do not have the Tab S10 FE, so I cannot give you a side-by-side comparison, but I'll try to ask Samsung Singapore for a loan unit so that I can compare the Tab S10 FE with the Tab S10 Lite. And with this display, the LCD glow is actually quite obvious, even during daytime. During low light, it is even more obvious. Wow, it's still quite reflective. So if you're watching shows or movies in a dark room, you will see your reflections. The colors actually look alright, but if you compare this LCD with the better Samsung tablets, the display quality is definitely not as good. Okay, so let's talk about performance. The processor in this tablet is the Exynos 1380 processor, which to me is not that powerful. Overall performance is quite smooth, but occasionally there will still be some stutter. For example, when I swipe up like this to go to the app switcher, sometimes there will be stutter, and I just don't understand why. Yeah, so the processor in the Tab S10 FE, which is the Exynos 1580, is noticeably more powerful compared to this tablet, and it's just lag-free on the Tab S10 FE. But here with this tablet, the S10 Lite, you may still encounter the occasional stutter. Okay, let me load Genshin Impact and talk maybe about gaming performance. Okay, this is how much time it will take to load a huge game. Now this tablet comes with either 6 gigs of RAM or 8 gigs. If you can, get the tablet with 8 gigs. But if you want to spend extra money, try to get the Tab S10 FE instead. Let me disable the volume. When it comes to loading huge games or huge apps, it's going to take some time. And when it has to render or compile some shaders, it is going to take even more time. So this is going to what's this? This is the loading screen, and this takes much longer, like noticeably longer compared to Tab S10 FE and Tab S11. So if you really do want a better user experience, just spend a bit more, go for the Tab S10 FE. Okay, so let's just run around. Let me just put the pen here and just run around. Let me just go into the settings first to tell you what's the default graphics settings that you can get with this tablet. It's lowest. This is the lowest out of the 5. Yeah. So if you zoom in and turn around, I can see pixelation. Yeah. By the way, the Tab S9 Ultra tablet that I am still using, now that tablet is 2 years old, and the default graphics settings, if I remember correctly, is medium. So even a 2-year-old tablet from 2 years ago has much better performance. At least the gameplay here is smooth, so you can use this tablet for some light gaming, but don't expect to play games at the highest graphics settings. Okay, so as I swipe up to go to the home screen, notice there is slight stutter. So that is the type of stutter that you may get even when you are switching from a small app to some other apps. Let's talk about the OS and some software features. This tablet is running on Samsung One UI on top of Android 15, and there is official support for Google Play Store. This tablet will get 7 years of OS and security updates. So Samsung One UI is actually one of the main selling features for this tablet and for all Samsung tablets. Samsung One UI has more useful features compared to other UIs from other companies. If you go into the settings, you can find and discover many features of Samsung One UI for yourself. There are just too many for me to cover. One feature I like is the sidebar here, so you can customize additional apps that you can open from the sidebar. And there is Samsung DeX, but Samsung DeX is not that useful on a small 11-inch display. So when you enable Samsung DeX, at least the display doesn't black out and reload. So this is DeX mode with the taskbar at the bottom. You can, open some apps with the floating window mode. Let me just open another one here. You can resize the windows. But this is not very useful on a small display because when you do this, there is just not a lot of space left for you to maneuver or move things around. So Samsung DeX is best used on a larger display or on an external display. And note that this USB-C port cannot output video, so you cannot use Samsung DeX on an external display with cable connection. Another useful feature is landscape view for portrait apps or phone apps. So when I open an app that's designed for phones, such as this app here, this is in the wrong orientation. This is designed for vertical orientation. So to open that app, when you're using the tablet in landscape orientation, just tap here and choose that app. Notice that this is not that responsive. It took a second or two to load this screen. So just look for the app that you want to open in portrait orientation when you're using the tablet in landscape orientation. Okay, it's here. Enable that. So now when you open the phone app, this is in the correct orientation, and this works quite well. And this is actually one of the features that many other brands or companies do not have. There is battery protection, so you can limit the battery to charge until 80%, 85, 90 or 95%. And if you want a feature that you cannot get with Samsung One UI, there is always Google Play Store, and you can install whatever app to get whatever feature you want. Let's look at the backup options, and there are three. You can back up to Samsung Cloud, Google Drive, or to an external storage. Now the backup options here do not back up the whole tablet. So some of the apps actually will save files within the Android data folder, and some of those files that are saved inside that Android data folder may not be backed up. For Infinite Painter, the artworks are actually saved within the Android data folder, which is not accessible even by the Samsung file browser. And those artworks will not be transferred to another tablet when you are transferring to a new tablet. So to back up those Infinite Painter artworks, you have to connect the tablet to a computer, or you have to find some file browser app from the Google Play Store that lets you access the Android data folder. So all three backup options provided by Samsung will not back up Infinite Painter artworks. If you use wrong apps that save artworks to the cloud, backup is not really an issue. But if you use a drawing app that saves files onto the tablet, you need to know where those files are actually saved. Time for the line test, and the app that I'm using is Medibank Paint, and this pen can capture my handwriting style quite accurately. Let's draw a slow diagonal line, and this line is quite thick. I'm applying minimal pressure, but this line is thicker than I expected. The lines are quite thin though. Let me switch over to the new hexagonal Samsung S Pen that comes with the Tab S11. And you can see the line is thinner. This is the Wacom One standard pen with two side buttons. This has the soft Wacom elastomer nib. Okay, the line is noticeably thicker. This is the Samsung S Pen from the previous tablets with the Wacom elastomer nib. the rubberized nib. And this is also thicker. And this is the Samsung S Pen from the previous tablet with a hard plastic nib. This is much thinner, even thinner than the hexagonal S Pen. So the pen tip that you use actually will give you different pen performance. Generally speaking, I find that hard plastic tips are more sensitive, which is to say that you can draw thinner lines more easily. Next, let's look at line tapers, and this is quite good. The lines are able to taper smoothly and sharply, although if I want thinner lines, I will have to adjust the pressure curve for this pen and the soft pen nib. I just switched over to using a hard plastic nib, and it seems like the line is still thicker than what I expected, where the line should be thin like this. So I'm not sure if there is an issue with this particular pen, but if you are not able to get thinner lines like this, you will have to use a drawing app that can let you adjust the pressure curve to help you draw thinner lines. Because if you use an app that does not have the pressure curve adjustment, for example, such as MediPen Paint, then to get thinner lines, you have to adjust the brush size manually. Another downside to this pen is the pen nib is very difficult to remove because the head is quite small. I will continue the line test with Clip Studio Paint instead because this app has pressure curve adjustment. Let's check the line transition from thin to thick and back to thin, thick, thin, thick, thin. So this is good. I can see very noticeable thin and thick lines. The transition is smooth, and this is also a diagonal line, and there is no noticeable diagonal line wobble. Pressure variance is quite consistent depending on how you apply the pressure, and I can draw thin lines easily after drawing the thick lines. So this is very good pen performance. This pen is good, but to get even better pen performance, you need to use an app that has pressure curve adjustment. Next, let's draw some dots. Small dots, big dots, works well. And the last test is the cursor misalignment test, which is usually for pen displays. Because for Android tablets, the cursor is usually directly underneath the pen tip. So here I'm trying to draw separate lines and join them together by looking at where the pen tip is instead of where the cursor is. And by the way, some apps may or may not display the cursor. So I am able to join the lines without gaps like this, and also without the lines overshooting like this. Let's look at the latency. So as I draw this long sweeping line, I can see the line chasing the pen tip, so there is some latency, but this is not really an issue when drawing. And this app is Concepts. The latency performance here is much better. The gap as the line is chasing the pen tip is much smaller. So latency performance will also vary depending on the app you use. This app supports tilt, so let's check out tilt sensitivity. This is with minimal pressure, with heavy pressure, and this is with tilt, without tilt, with tilt, without tilt, with tilt. So tilt works. The next app I want to show you is Krita, and this is version 5.2.13. And for some reason, when I create a new image, it does not create a new image. So for some reason, this version of Krita doesn't work on the tablet. Anyway, what I wanted to show you is how the cursor will follow the direction of the pen tip, and it usually works with Samsung S Pen and Krita on other Samsung tablets. Anyway, Krita doesn't work that well on an 11-inch tablet because it has too many UI elements and the UI scaling is too big, so whenever there's a dialog box that appears, you may not be able to close the dialog box because the close button is off the screen. And now let's talk about the drawing experience. Since the pen performance is quite good, the drawing experience is quite good. By the way, palm rejection works really well. So let me just show you some of the sketches that I have drawn. Let me just reduce. Oh, okay, I have the black and white version as well. Anyway, for this app, Medibank Paint, this app actually still works quite well on the 10.9-inch display because you can still display palettes on the left and also on the right and still get a decent amount of space left over for drawing. But usually when I'm drawing, I will hide 1 or 2 columns of palette. For this sketch, I had to reduce the brush size to help me draw thinner lines because, as you can see earlier, if the line is too thick like this, it's actually very difficult for me to draw fine lines like this. So to draw the thin lines, I have to reduce the brush size here manually. And because this app does not have the pressure curve adjustment, it is a bit more challenging to draw with this app compared to other apps such as Infinite Painter or Clip Studio, where you can just use one thick brush and use that brush to draw the whole illustration or sketch. So for this sketch, I have to adjust the brush size constantly just to get the line width that I want. No issues with diagonal line wobble and no issues with workflow for at least this app. The only issue is this app does not have pressure curve adjustment. And this sketch was drawn with Infinite Painter using the dry inker brush. This brush can let you draw thin and thick, and when you tilt the brush you can get broad strokes like this. So I can draw the thin lines and thick lines quite easily, and for the hair I just tilt the brush to get the broad strokes. And Infinite Painter is actually a very picky app in the sense that if you use a pen where the pen performance is not good, the tilt effect is going to look really bad. But here, the S Pen tilt actually works quite well, so that's great. And these are some sketches that I have drawn using concepts. Let's take a look at these sketches which were drawn on the train using this tablet. So I drew this while commuting on the train, and this tablet is not too heavy, so I can hold the tablet like this to draw or like this to draw, so no issues with holding the tablet. And I was quite discreet. Those commuters did not notice me drawing them because most of them are on their phone. This was drawn during dinner, and I saw a few cops packing food for, I would guess, their colleagues. So this was drawn with concepts as well. I am able to get thin and thick lines quite easily with this app. This app concepts works well on this tablet because of the minimal UI. I have only this tool wheel that takes up this much space and the layers palette which I can actually hide to get more drawing space. So I can rest my palm on the display and draw, and palm rejection works well. You can see the colors spill out because I was drawing really quickly because I knew they are going to leave very soon, and they did leave quite soon, so I have to sketch really quickly. And now let me sketch something really quickly using Concepts, which is my favorite drawing app. Let's use the watercolor B4 brush, set this to black, look at the layers, set this to automatic. The Samsung S Pen is accurate and sensitive, so performance is very predictable. When drawing, when sketching, there are no surprises. The lines always come out exactly the way you expect them to be. When you want thin lines, you get thin lines, and when you want thick lines, you get thick lines. When you want tapered strokes, you get tapered strokes. So the pen works great. Okay, I have set the side button to select. So if I draw something wrong like this, I can select, delete, and just draw, or I can set the finger action to select. Now I have set it to move the canvas. Okay, now this pen is almost hexagonal and there is one flat side. So when I hold the pen, I can feel where the flat side is, and because of that, I can know where the side button is. Now with the new hexagonal S Pen from the Tab S11 series, This is difficult for me to find where the side button is because this pen is like symmetrical and this side button does not like extrude out. So when drawing, it's very difficult for me to find where the side button is. Whereas for the older pen, this button is not extruded, but it's actually slightly deeper inside, so you can feel where the button is. And you can also feel the flat side, so when you feel the flat side, you know where the button is. With this pen, it's really difficult. With this hexagonal pen, it's really difficult to use the side button. So that's one downside for the new pen. Oops, that's an undo. Palm rejection actually works really well. Yeah, I do not have any issues with palm rejection. And this pen, if you're using the correct app, you can actually, draw with a really light touch. So you can draw as if you are sketching. The pen tip is rubberized, so there is actually some resistance when you are drawing on the display. So the pen tip is not going to glide around too easily. You will still get some good control over the pen tip, which is what I like with the Samsung S Pen compared to the Apple Pencil with the hard plastic tip or other pens with the hard plastic tips. Because with plastic on glass, sometimes the pen tip can glide too easily. Yeah, and when it glides too easily, it's a bit difficult to control the pen. And this display is big, so you can rest your palm on the display. Notice as I rest my palm on the display, there are no stray strokes. So you can rest your palm on the display and get more control over the pen. Okay, so the Tab S10 Lite only comes in this size, 10.9 inch, which is actually not a small size. This is still considered a big tablet. This is not a small tablet, it's just that the 12-inch tablets are even bigger, but this is not a small tablet. This is almost A5 size. So I usually sketch with A5 size sketchbooks, and yeah, this size is very familiar for me. Okay, so I can have thin lines here. Let's have some thick lines, thin lines, thick lines. Yeah, so you can get very expressive lines with this pen, depending on how much pressure you apply. And I can sketch very quickly. Yeah, there are definitely no surprises. The Samsung S Pen performance has been consistent since there is the first Samsung S Pen. And this pen uses the Wacom EMR technology, so it supports pressure, tilt, and palm rejection, and they all work really well. You can also buy third-party pens as well that use Wacom EMR, and they will all work here. So as shown earlier, some pens will have, better pressure support due to perhaps the pen nib or how the pen was designed. But here with this pen, I'm not sure if it's an issue with this pen, but it tends to draw thicker lines with some apps. So you really need to use apps that can let you adjust the pressure curve to get the best performance out of this pen. Right, let's color this. So this is my workflow when sketching on the train. I will create the line art very quickly because when sketching people, you have to sketch fast, otherwise they are going to disappear. In this case, they may step out of the train. Okay, so with this app, I can actually add colors very quickly using the shape tool, and the colors, they work really well. This is the Copic coloring system. Yep, so with just a few lines and some colors, you can see the sketch starts to come to life. Okay, we need the eyes to be white. Yeah, no diagonal line wobble. Yeah, so the pen performance is really great. No issues with pen performance. Let's create some tapered strokes. Looks fine. Okay, so while sketching some of these, people, I tried to use the screen recording app. The maximum resolution you can use for recording is just 1080p because this tablet only has 1080p plus resolution, and there is no way to select the image compression or video compression. So that's one thing you should know if you want to screen record your drawing process. And while recording my drawing process using the screen recorder, I did not notice any lag. So you can certainly draw and record smoothly without lag. Alright, to conclude, the Tab S10 Lite is a decent tablet. It has fantastic pen performance for drawing, but there are some downsides and limitations, and the most noticeable one is actually the display quality. And also there is the occasional stutter sometimes. So as mentioned many times in this video, if you can stretch your budget slightly, I highly recommend you go for the Tab S10 FE, which is a much better tablet, which has a better display, better performance, starts with 8 gigs of RAM. The tablet is also thinner and lighter. There is IP68 rating, and the fingerprint scanner works more effectively compared to the face unlock here.